Reddit, what is the guiltiest fap you have ever had? NSFW. I was in the middle of a good fap one night when my phone rang. It was a friend of mine, female, calling to tell me that her grandmother went to the hospital. She was crying and very shaken, but I had reached the point where if I stopped, I'd have blue balls like a mother ducker. So I quietly kept going while she cried on the phone. I still feel bad about it, but duck, it was a good fap up until then. Did you have clay as a kid? I did. I made mine into a vagina and ducked it. It was summer, so my parents were off at work and I had the place to myself. So of course, as a rookie masturbator, I was nude in the bathroom with a Vaselined up clay tube, humping for Jesus. That's when I heard somebody opening the front door at a time of day when nobody should have been opening the front door. With cat-like reflexes, I withdrew and carl-wise back to my room, put my gym shorts and t-shirt back on, tucked the boner behind the waistband, laid on the bed under the covers and pretended I had been watching TV. Turns out it was my dad and his important boss in their suits and ties. They were heading back to the office after returning from a trip outside of the city and were just stopping off at our place to use the bathroom. The bathroom where my crude grey-green clay vagina and an open tub of Vaseline were sitting on the sink counter by the toilet, where the boss was peeing, with nothing to look at while he peed but my clay girlfriend, an open tub of the one lube so associated with masturbation, back then, that its original uses had long been forgotten. When he came out of the bathroom, my dad had me introduce myself, with a barely restrained deflating boner threatening to flop forward into rhyming position any second. I shook his hand with my unmistakably Vaseline Y hand, just to go ahead and close the circle on what he was already thinking. Oh, the shame, the guilt. Sorry dad, I'm so sorry TL. DR. Shook my dad's boss's hand with the Vaselined hand I had just been using to lube up my John Thomas and the homemade clay vagina I had accidentally left out for him to see. I woke up one Sunday to find my family gone presumably to church. I'm hungry as hell and horny as hell, but which to do first? Easy to them both at the same time. I'm streamlining my day, I think to myself, and pat myself on the back. Go to the kitchen and while cooking some eggs I bring in the laptop, set it on the kitchen table and turn to Pornhub. I put on the kinky stuff, some screamer porn, finish up and start to eat my eggs, feeling like I must be Plato reincarnated with this idea, when all of a sudden I hear my dad yell, "I am in here, US." Dad skipped church that morning and was sleeping with his door open. Well, damn. Till, DR, my dad woke up to the smell of bacon and screamer porn. What is up? You have posted this 3 times with practically the same account. Just look here. http://www.reddit.com/r/askreddit/search?kick guiltiest +fap ampersand restrict _s requalson, and you can see what I mean. Also, Newlifa Newman and DHK8 made exactly the same comments. I fapped in class once. My junk was perfectly positioned in my pants, so I started tapping my leg, which got me erect. I thought, duck it, might as well, and kept tapping away, letting the DCK friction stimulate me until I ended up shooting my load straight into my left pant leg. Walking back home with jizz crawling down your leg isn't the greatest feeling. Growing up, I was the only guy in a house with my mother and my 2 elder sisters. So as you can imagine, the concept of privacy is nearly alien to them in all situations that do not relate to them. I cannot count how many times I have literally had my mother burst into my room, giving me mere seconds to cover up the fact that I was jerking my gherkin. This has made it so difficult to feel at all private in my room that I don't even take off my boxers, which are often the only piece of clothing I will wear in my room, and basically I will ejaculate into that. Once while masturbating, I was basically just about to get off when none other than my nosy mother bursts into the room. I rolled my chair forward just enough to obscure what I was doing as the desk faced the wall upon which my door opened from, and the door opened towards me. I shit you not. I continued unbeknownst to her to basically tug at the loose flesh along the base of the head of my DCK, tangentially pleasuring it as it pulsed into the cottony fabric of my boxers, while my mother blathered obliviously about this or that something or other that I didn't give 2 shits about because she burst into the room while I was ducking, masturbating. Every fiber of my soul tells me to use a throwaway dart every single one chicken. It's what for dinner. Or, at least that was the plan. The house sat alone, cold, quiet and dark. I saw it in the distance as the school bus churned its way down the road and deposited my 11-year-old self by the steps of the much nicer house next door. I barely took notice of the skies darkening with thick clouds taunting everyone else with the chance of rain. No, my friends, the only thing I fixated my gaze on was the empty driveway. My parents had gone fishing. I smiled through my clenched teeth and thoughtfully patted my penis. We were about to embark on a journey together like no other. The last day of innocence. I was an innocent boy until I walked into that kitchen and was forever changed. I promise you this. When I opened the refrigerator door to fuel up before game time, I never intended my hormones to duel with my sense of logic in a quick second battle that surely resulted in the death of my common sense from that day before. Sitting on the second shelf was an 8-pound Frank Perdue chicken. Raw, oily and perched with its rear cavity inches from my flaccid penis. I picked it up and raised it to my chest. For a moment, only me and that chicken existed in the whole universe and I had to have her. Before I could change my mind, I slammed the door shut and bolted into my bedroom and under the blankets. I dug my fingernails deep into the plastic and started tearing it open, all the whilst my once flaccid tiny penis had morphed into what I believed at that moment into a rock-hard 3-inch sword of epic proportions. Under my bed, a jar of Vaseline was retrieved and I applied it liberally to my meat thermometer. I positioned the rear cavity of the chicken beside my pillow and aimed myself into a docking position and lowered my body almost to the point of contact. I stopped. This wasn't right, I thought. I couldn't do this. It was just so wrong and my 11-year morals forbade me. I knew what the right thing to do was. I hopped off of the bed and peeked around the corner. The coast was clear. Like a ninja, I darted into my parents' room and flung up the closet door, and there it was. It was long, silky and green with gorgeous lace trimmings on the sleeve and collar. I pulled down my treasure from the rack and went to dress up my chicken lover. I slipped the nightgown under its thin fragile wings and smiled at my creativity. Now she wouldn't just feel like a woman. That chicken would look like one too. I was ready now. So close to the edge of no return. My DCK was throbbing in anticipation and I knew within minutes I would achieve the holy grail of interspecies lovemaking. I slipped inside her canal with great anticipation. Finally, I would unlock the knowledge of what real sex felt like. Not teddy bear humping or greasy palm lovemaking, but real sex. I gave it 1 or 2 pumps with my pistol, but deep in my heart I knew something wasn't right. This couldn't be what a vagina felt like, could it? I withdrew and used my fingers to spread apart the cavity and see what was going on in there. I could see some obstacle, something obstructing my passage into ecstasy. It was a bag of gizzards, chicken livers tucked into the rear cavity of the chicken. It was far too gross to touch for long. I stuffed it back inside and brought the chicken back into the kitchen. I grabbed a sharp knife and using my fingers determined where the fleshiest part of the chicken was and proceeded to stab a small hole. I stuck my finger into my newly created glory hole and was satisfied that I was indeed a clever boy. I should have stopped at that point, but the little hole I created felt so lifelike that it would be shame not to go the extra mile. A woman must feel warm inside, I remember thinking. Not cold like a dead stiff bird. Fuck it. I opened the microwave door, set the timer and waited while she warmed up. I was beyond horny at this point. I grabbed the plate, ignoring the pain from the heat, and tossed the chicken on the bed, quickly redressing her in the green nightgown and propped her up so the new hole was inches from my penis. Penetration was successful. My penis glided between the fleshy tissue and with great passion I made in and out motions. At first I could only get in so far, but eventually the muscles gave way and I was deep inside her. I rubbed her breast and kissed her chest. I ducked her with so much pent-up love that her wing snapped under my weight. I was lovemaking. I was so proud of myself. In under a minute I sputtered inside of her and collapsed into a pile of boy. I remember laying there in sheer awe of what just happened. Fate, being the bastard that it was, decided that I would have no recovered time to take my lover on a second round of love. I hear the front door being creaked open and my parents laughing at some inside joke. In a panic, I threw on pajama bottoms and a t-shirt and walked into the hallway to greet them. I asked them about their catch of the day. I didn't hear every word. Everything that was said to me was jumbled. Catfish, bugs, Didn't catch dinner. Having chicken instead. Chicken. My chest tightened. I couldn't breathe. I ducked dinner. My poor parents didn't catch dinner tonight. That chicken, my beautiful chicken lover, was dinner. As my mother reached for the handle of the fridge, I knew there was nothing I could do. The moment was frozen in time. I leaned against the wall for the support. The microwave door was still open and the knife, glistening with chicken juice and a greasy handle, was in plain sight. The dog whimpered, surely feeling my pain, and trotted off to ignore the impending doom. I began to feel lightheaded and dizzy. A bright white light surrounded me. I thought surely death had taken me. I heard my name being called in the distance and I regained my composure. The bright light vanished when the door was shut and I flicked a piece of chicken skin off my arm and listened as my parents argued over the existence of said chicken. I wasn't sure I believed in God, but I prayed anyway. In a flash of sheer brilliance I suggested ordering pizza and they stopped arguing. There was talk about coupons and toppings. For once I didn't care that my father wanted pineapple or my mother hated pepperoni. I agreed with everything. For that 30 minutes between the fridge and the headlights of the pizza guy pulling into the driveway, I thought that I had indeed willed the universe to my demands. That was, until the doorbell rang. Two little noises, ding dong, changed my life forever. Like a bat out of hell. The dog, hearing the doorbell, came bolting out of my bedroom, running with all his might to the back door. His penis, unsheathed and rigid, stood out like a pink taffy in a black and white video. I heard my mother scream and my dad opening the door to greet the pizza guy. In his mouth was a gnarled chicken carcass dressed in my mother's nightgown. I ran towards the dog, grabbing the chicken from his mouth and throwing it across the room as hard as I could. The dog took off after it, mounted it and began humping it while my mother attempted to snatch her gown from the grips of the dog. She yelled for my dad, who sat the pizza down on the counter and finally managed to free the chicken. Life changed that day. The three of us sat in silence. My father threw away the chicken. My mother put her nightgown in the wash and the pizza sat untouched on the countertop. It was never spoken of again. TLDR, fucked dinner. Had an orgy with the dog. One time two female friends of mine bought me a blow-up doll as a gag gift. They gave it to me in Denny's. I laughed it off and threw it in my trunk, figuring I would just toss it out. A few days later I was horny. I remembered that I had it, and gave it a go. I was obviously single at the time, and hadn't gotten laid in a while. It was ducking stupid. I took no pleasure from it at all. Nothing really felt appealing whatsoever. It was like ducking a swimming tube, except there was a little bit of lube. I tore that thing up, stuffed it back in the box and threw it in a dumpster somewhere. Edit. Poor choice of words. As a teenager I had a summer job as a maintenance sort of guy. I was ordered to paint the inside walls of this coffee house. At that age I had to fap several times a day, and when I felt the urge I had to comply immediately. So naturally I came into the paint bucket, at least 3 times a day. It took me several days to finish the job since I did it alone with a paintbrush. So I painted a coffee house with my cum. This happened over 10 years ago. I visited the place few years ago and it just made chuckle. Not even ashamed of it, it's just funny. I hid a camera in my bedroom and filmed my ex-girlfriend and I having sex. This was back in the late 90s, when internet porn meant 10-second clips or pictures. On nights she didn't feel like having sex, I would wait until she went to sleep, and masturbate to that video. I don't feel so guilty about fapping to it, as I do about secretly filming us. I wasn't too worried about getting caught, though, or I wouldn't have done it with her in the room. I ran into her a few years ago at a bar, and told her about it. Afterwards, we came back to my house and watched the video. At Santaki a few years ago, I drew the short straw among our group of friends and had to be the elf. The elf was the designated driver after the event, and essentially, became the group's bitch for the night. Those unfamiliar with Santaki or Santakan, you dress in Christmas costumes and bar crawl from morning to the next morning. Think 5,000 fall down drunk Santas. Anyway, it was my turn to be the DD elf, and I had to spend the day wearing a pair of red tights and a green dress shirt thing that barely covered my ass, pointy hat, jingly s ho ho hoss, the whole nine. Once I got used to the abject humiliation and smartest remarks, I realized that the tights felt pretty damn good. They kept my junk all snugly and tight. I'd been sober all night staring at college chicks in their sexy Santa costumes and whatever. Anyway, after about 2 AM and everyone was ushered home, I went home and went into my bedroom for fappy time. I found myself humping a pillow, and the tights were rubbing everything just perfectly. The more I got into the swing of it, the more those ducking bells were jingling, which unknown to me at the time, was making my roommate's dog freak the duck out. Nobody was home, my door wasn't shut all the way, and you see where this is going. As I furiously humped the pillow in my elf costume, the dog who thought I was playing fetch with a dingle ball barged into the room and jumped on the bed just as I blew. At that point I realized how ducked up everything was. Laying on my bed ducking a pillow dressed in a costume with a damn dog staring me dead in the eyes, judging me, no less. TLDR, I shot my load into a pillow dressed as an elf with a lab on my back. Throwaway account, because I'm a girl, and when I was about 11 or 12 I learned the joys of masturbation. Concurrent to this is the fact that I slept in my parents' bed until high school. So, one night I feel kinda funny and decide to poke around at my vagina while laying in the middle of both of my sleeping parents. Felt awfully gross ever since. A couple of years later, while my parents are watching TV I decide to take a bubble bath. My parents' bathroom is pretty neat, large tub with glass doors and whatnot. I started to mess around in the bath and even got a really small travel size bottle of shampoo in there. I'm laying there, rubbing this little bottle in and out of my vagina, while my head is resting on the tile and my eyes are closed. The room was completely silent and I was doing this for a good 20 minutes. Out of nowhere, my mom's voice next to the tub. "Honey, are you okay?" I still cringe. 2 words. Lego. Vagina. All-time most awesome fap story. In a boarding school, high school, very strict. Separate boys wing and girls wing setup. Usual story. Lights out after 10 PM etc. Of course every sneaks into each other's rooms. One night we had a bunch of girls over. All our rooms were duplexes, 4 kids to a room. Lounge study area downstairs. Bedroom upstairs. So everyone is upstairs apart from one guy who is walking downstairs just in time to realize one of the teachers on night duty is walking in to figure out what the noise is. As I say, very strict school. Would possibly be expelled for having girls in your room past lights out. Split second thinking. He drops his pants and starts whacking it on the couch. Teacher, she, walks in, sees him and shrieks. Cannot apologize to him enough for not knocking first etc. Needless to say this kid has gone down as a living legend at that high school. TLDR, kid in school purposely got caught fapping to distract teacher and save friends. I was in my second year at uni, house sharing with some pals. In total there's 5 of us. Me, my best bud, my girlfriend and 2 other girls. So my girlfriend and my best bud are out and it's just me and these 2 girls alone in the house. I'm in my room, lying on my bed, doing some uni work. For whatever reason I decide it's fap time. Roll onto my back and the fun times begin. I'm on my back. I have a small towel laid out on my stomach for cleanup. I'm stroking away, just about to finish. There is a knock at my bedroom door. Any sensible person would say hold on or 1 minute or something to that effect. I don't. I panic. I am mid-ejaculate. Say yes in that way that suggests come in, friend. The quickest WTF am I doing thought goes through my head. In one quick ninja-like move I wrap that small towel around my now messy junk, wipe my hand, roll over and grab a pen in the hopes it looks like I'm just working. The girls push open the door. Hey, what you doing? Just some work. What's up? Nothing. Okay, see ya. The girls push open the door. I don't remember there being any door handle turning happening. Both girls were there. They didn't have a reason to come talk to me. The door had been open just enough. They saw. They knew. I knew they knew. No one ever mentioned it. At work. Felt like jerking it. Went over to the Arby's bathroom and businessed all up in the urinal. I dated this girl for a few months my freshman year of college. She was an awesome girl but was horrible in bed, to the point where it was a chore to do the deed. So one morning before she leaves for class, we spent the night at her dorm. Before she leaves she starts trying to get me to do the deed. I start then fake finish about 5 minutes into it. She hops in the shower and whilst I fap one out. I really felt bad about it. I was dog sitting for my friend's girlfriend, and like anyone would do, I decided to snoop around the house a bit. I get to her room, and I find her yoga pants on the floor, and upon closer inspection, there's a pair of panties still in them with a bit of vag juice staining on it. I picked him up, lied down on her bed, and smothered my face with her panties while I jerked off. I guess I woke up her dog, though. I goggeted out the last few drops and looked up to him staring straight at me. A couple of years ago a friend of mine broke up with his girl. His girl was a good friend of mine as well. Anyway, now she was single. Well, long story short, she got her tits out on MSN and I fapped off to her. Felt shamed afterwards. I broke the bro code. This is a double whammy. One day a couple years ago I was living with my then girlfriend who is now my ex. She wasn't home and I was moving porn onto my new hard drive that I just installed from my old one. As I was moving it I came across old pictures of my previous ex. I start getting nostalgic and then I saw a folder. I love you. I open it up and there's my ex's PSSY. Hot, wet, shaved, and with her finger on her clit. I look through this folder and I'm amazed she did this for me. I instantly got rock hard and go for a nice fap down memory lane with my new pictures. As I'm about to finish I reach over to the laundry hamper and pull out a shirt. Just any random one. Give myself a good tug, and spill my load into it. And it was a pretty good one being that it was the first time I fapped that day. So I ball up the shirt, toss it back in the laundry pile. I scrolled down in the folder and saw a Word doc. I clicked it open and inside she had written me a love note. I know you said I should be a little more adventurous and you wanted pics of me, so I took these and just wanted to tell you I love you. Damn near broke my heart. One of the last things I said to her was she was boring in bed and had no thrill for sex. I instantly felt guilty. Thoughts start going through my head. Maybe if I found this folder sooner maybe her and I might still be together. Maybe she wasn't as closed off as I thought to me. After a few minutes I close the dock and hide the folder in my new drive. Hours passed and my girlfriend came home. She was in a rush to meet her friends at some special movie presentation they were having and she was looking for her hip hoppopotamus shirt. It was a darker grey shirt with a cute little hippo and some turntables on it. She finds the shirt and I don't even think twice when she says she found it. She pops it on and feels something sticky on her back. It was my load. I asked her if she got it out of the laundry and she was pissed I used her shirt. She starts going off on me like no one's business. All of a sudden she's yelling, swearing, throwing things, and all I can do is say I'm sorry but it was in the dirty clothes. She pulls it off and grabs another shirt off the rack and slaps it on as she's storming out of the door. I notice she still had some of my jizz in her ponytail. I didn't say a thing because at the time I was pissed about her and was like, duck that bitch. So she comes home later that night and is even more pissed because one of her friends had pointed out she had something in her hair and she had to play it off. She was in tears at this point, shifting from anger to depressed mode. She's crying and snotty and red and puffy. It was a sad sight. I knew then that my fap had really made a dent in our relationship, not just to me but to her as well. TLDR. Fapped after finding a folder of XGF1 on my hard drive into XGF2's shirt. XGF1 left a love note. XGF2 wore the shirt, got jizz in her hair, and went out with friends while it was in her hair. Big fight ensues. I feel guilty about XGF1 and XGF2. Really again? You already posted this twice, with the same goddamn story.
http://www.reddit.com/r/reddit_/comment/askreddit comments Hema9/Reddit. What is the guiltiest fap you have ever? 8 months ago and a year ago. You are ducking obsessed with people's guilty faps. Make a guilty faps website and be done with it. Once at a hotel when I was around 12 I discovered the joys of the water jets in the hot tub.
I desperately wanted to stick my DCK in one, but my parents were there along with about 6 other people. It was one of those elongated hot tubs that was built in. I keep trying to surreptitiously put my tallywhacker in the jet, but I kept getting scared of people finding out. So eventually I tried to casually saunter up to the side of the tub and stealthily move my hand to pull down my swimsuit. Finally my dad straight up tells me that everyone knows what you are doing. So after that I just sit there embarrassed, not moving at all until we got out. TLDR, wanted to duck a hot tub jet, got caught by dad jacking it while going 70 miles per hour on a Chicago freeway during the day. The first time I ever fapped, well, if you could call it that, I think I was 11 or 12. I was standing in the living room waiting to leave with my family to go out to dinner. The Brady Bunch was on TV and I was just standing there watching it with my hands in my pockets, and Marsha started to look really good, like really good, and for whatever reason I took it upon myself to have my first self-pleasuring experience standing right there in the family room. No one was in the room. I don't think I would have done it had anyone been present at the moment. Moment is also probably an accurate measure of time for the duration of the event. I didn't fully understand ejaculation at the time, and didn't really think anything about the consequences of my actions. After we got home and I changed into pajamas, I realized I had emitted something, felt bad about it for some reason for a minute, and then did it again right before I fell asleep. Just thinking about Hover was hot in 1999 doing something hot. It was a weird night edit. I accidentally a comma. The 9/11 FAP. I managed to avoid wanking for 2 weeks straight. Was alone in my sister's living room one morning, hungover and horny as hell. Spent the entire morning being bored, as I enjoy the most volcanic climax I have ever experienced in my life. The wall behind me, all over the sofa, the table in front of me etc. I hear the front door open from around the corner. It's the maid. She's home early. What the duck? And at that moment, life slowed down and a massive adrenaline rush shot through me, as I picked up the nearest cleaning agent, my sister's cashmere scarf, and wiped off all the semen in the living room in a few swift movements as well as pulling up my pants, just moments before the maid walks in. The maid still comes here twice a week. I'm moving out next week, but damn, my sister will never know how that scarf disappeared, and I always feel awkward around the maid these days. In class, girl's thong was showing. 12 years old, dial-up internet, wanted a quick fap. National Geographic article on tribes in Africa. It wasn't guilty over the material I was watching. The shame came after I came back from disposing the tissues to see I left a heart-shaped sweat stain from my ass. Please excuse formatting. It's less of a single fap and more of a collection of faps that stirred a lot of remorse. I was extremely bored one day while killing time at Ord. I fired up my laptop and decided as a joke to create a Google map of every place I've ever pippermilled out some man's piss. It dated back to my first time all the way to that day to the best of my recollection. I took some creative license for certain instances. That is, on airplanes, I would put a pin somewhere in the flight path. I then emailed the link to my friends as a joke. The link went viral through our social network. With that one map, you can basically figure out where I grew up, where I went to school, where I've worked, and where I vacationed. I undulate between pride and guilt over this idea. TLDR, law enforcement have Comstat, I have Comstat. Used a friend of mine's panties, her mom's too. Silk feels so good, I may or may not wish I had stolen a pair. Have you posted this story under a different username before? Because I definitely remember reading this exact story somewhere else. I think this guy gets off reading other people's fap stories. What other reason would there be for posting the same thing over and over again from similar accounts? We have become his guiltiest fap story. When I was at school, 15 I think, I went to Shakespeare's house. I wanted a cool story to impress people with. Apparently having a wank in Shakespeare's bedroom is not a cool story. A coworker was going around selling CDs of his daughters singing, like homemade CDs. They even printed the liner notes and everything. He guilted me into buying it, so I took it to the bathroom and fapped to pictures of his slightly underage daughter. I think she was 17, so I don't think it was that bad. My mom manages a Christian bookstore within a church, and sometimes when there are no seats during the sermons, or any other reason, I would sit inside the back room of the store while the ongoing sermon plays on the overhead speakers. I was 12 and there was a female mannequin for lame Christian pun shirts, but we never used it because it had noticeably erect nipples, which the staff sanded off eventually. I jerked off to it while my pastor was reading Matthew 18:6 and I unloaded on my hand. I was so scared and I began to panic because I was sure I was going to hell after this. Years later, I actually work at the store and am atheist, and I still do it every now and then. TL. Doctor, I've been jerking it during solemn church services for years. Well, here goes. This is the kind of dark and depraved tea that will make the rest of you ashamed to be human beings with me. My sister, who is 1 year younger than me, had this really hot friend who I always had a crush on but who was never interested in me. Well, one day my sister asked me to fix her laptop, and I found a video of the two of them doing some lesbian fooling around. Neither of them was gay to my knowledge, so I was blown away. I saved a copy of the video to my thumb drive and wanked to it furiously for weeks. I eventually came to terms with the fact that it wasn't just the friend getting me off, it was the fact that she was with my sister. I would start doing creepy shit like sneaking into her room while she was sleeping and touching her and licking her leg as high up her thigh I could. About a year and a half after I found the video, my sister was killed in a car accident. Her friend came to the funeral, of course, and while she was kneeling alone over the casket saying her goodbyes, I wondered if she was thinking of what her and my sister used to do with each other, and I got an erection right there at the viewing. I got home and loaded up the video again and had another wank and then cried. TLDR. I wanked to the stolen made lesbian porno of my sister after her funeral. Every time I fantasize about my GF, at the time, and her best friend, yet, I do it again and again and again and again and I feel guilty every time. I tugged one out to the Queen's portrait on a £10 note once. Jex did a similar thing in Peep Show. Difference is, he was donating sperm. I was just bored. Oh Lizzie, what have I done? Okay, I finally got to fly from Georgia all the way to California to meet my dad, and I found out he had another family, and this was my reaction. http://i.imgur.com/bsskc.jpg. I found out they were going to get married 5 days later. One day I was taking pictures of all of them, including my super hot sister. I had the tuft that I need to masturbate to get before the marriage, and I did. The next day I saw her, I felt weird as duck, and she was wearing tight yoga pants, so that kinda made it worse for my DCK. Sorry if it's a shitty story. My first story post. It's really sad how many people are like, I've read this masturbation story before you, Ray. This is a key sign that you might be spending too much time on this site.